Hey, good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Who's on the Go Mike podcast one on one. Unfortunately, there's only me alone on the podcast tonight. Lofty was supposed to join us, and we really anticipated hearing what he had to say from last week with the technical difficulties. Had a little emergency. I only spoke to him about 5 minutes ago and told me he could make it. So yeah, I was kind of a build up, and we spoke earlier and so on, and everything was looking good to have him continue on where he left off with the CIP or CBI program, as they call it in Dominica. But I do believe he's a soldier, man. If he couldn't make it this week, he'll definitely be on next week as soon as he gets that outs that fire, whatever it is. But what I will do on such a short notice, since I'm going solo, is that I didn't feel like we should just not go live tonight. I felt that we still have so many issues in Antigua and Barbuda in the region of the Caribbean as a whole that we need to talk about it. And talking about it won't solve the issue, but I believe with the advent of so much social media that people can be informed, but a lot of the times they are getting their bad information. So I'll let you know a little bit of what I know. What we did last week with Loftus was that we read an article and they were talking about the four islands, four nations in the Caribbean, small islands that have adopted the CIP program at various points in time. I believe that the first one to have done it was St. Kitts and Nevis, and that was sometime not too far off from their independence. And they have a program that is going on. It has its controversies and so on, but the best part of their program is that the people actually see the dividends that the program has brought not only to the country as a whole, indirectly to them, but directly, and that they're able to get their double their wages for Christmas and salaries and bonuses and the public workers. And the years had their CIP program for over 10 years now. And the most that we can really say that we see on this program is that at the end of December or just before Christmas, you are paid your salary a week or two early. And that is what the average public servant can say that has affected them directly from the CIP program. And sad circumstances that even before the CIP program, people were getting paid a week or two before Christmas. So I don't know if really the CIP does that, but I guess they'll say that the only way they're able to pay workers was because of the CIP program is being in effect, because they're so broke at this point in time. Um, what I'd like to say also is that we spoke about it with Brother Sean 2 weeks ago. We're talking about the CIP program, and we did mention on this same podcast that sad circumstances is that when you introduce a CIP program and it's such easy money, you're selling passports, you really don't have to go out and find work for your people or to attract investors. That is like a crutch. It is the crutch that leads to undevelopment in other sectors of the Antigua and Barbuda industry, or our abilities to grow agriculture, our inabilities to do other things or come up with creative ideas to start a new industry in Antigua and Barbuda and to have our citizens benefit. Because at the end of the day, one cannot throw all your baskets in, throw all the eggs in one basket, which is tourism. And these small islands, especially more so in the OCS, we are so concentrated on one industry, selling the tourism projects of nice beaches or nice nature island, sand and surf, and people come into the Caribbean to relax. We sell that as our product. Now, we've been doing that in Antigua for 70 something years. And at some point in time, you have to say you topped out. You're not going to get larger people coming into the country because you've tapped out. I don't know if you have a test and you have a test which gives you different percents. If it's 100% in a test, you get 20%, 20 points for this one. You get another 20 points for another area. You get 30 points for another area. And then you get 30 points for another area. You cannot just do a test and expect to do a 20 and a 30 and get 50% or a pass mark. You're not going to get full points. And that is what is happening in our tourism in Antigua. We have tapped out to me. How much more cruise ships do you expect to get into Antigua and Barbuda? What is the cost of getting those cruise ships? Do you actually have a tourism product that them coming off the boat is actually worth them coming off their boats? But let us get back to the CIP. I don't want to sidetrack too much. We mentioned, as I said, that you cannot just get easy money and think that the politicians are going to actually continue to try to seek further investment in other areas. And one of earlier this year is how they destroyed Dunbar's farm, agricultural research and experimentation. The only reason they could have done that is because they know they have easy money elsewhere. If you have easy money elsewhere, you're not too concerned about farming. And you can see the results of farming now. They said they're going to have a symposium sometime in April this month or May, I think. So what I'd just like to tell you, it is not the first country that has suffered because from a mono industry economy. We even see it in larger countries where they base their economy around one industry. And I'll deal a little bit I know with Nigeria. Nigeria, previous to before they found oil and started to export it, the agricultural product was way up. It was a substantial part, probably 40, 50% of their gross domestic product. It was a country that had so much different agricultural produce to feed the nation. And probably fortunately for some, but unfortunately for others, as soon as they discovered oil, it was another story because that became their go-to money producer in their economy. And it was just a simple matter of inviting foreign companies, the Exxon, the Mobil, the British Petroleum, to come in and to get their oils. And if you ask the Nigerians now what percentage of their economy is based around agriculture, they're probably doing like us, importing everything through the supermarket. It affects your whole outlook. I'll relate that finding oil in Nigeria to what is happening in Antigua, that we, in the last just over 10 years, have relied so heavily on the CIP, Citizen by Investment Program, that the citizens, that the government is just, oh, we need this money, and we need that. Okay, we have money. There's a problem here. Okay, then we have CIP money. They don't make it a part of the treasury, the consolidated fund that is run through the National Development Fund, which is controlled by the Cabinet of Antigua and Barbuda. And their problems now, and their problems since the get-go. I wouldn't even say under this administration, there were problems when the CIP program started in Antigua and Barbuda under the United Progressive Party. Also were in opposition then and still in opposition now have the same problems. We don't feel that the money is being properly accounted for. The problem with the UPP is that when the ALP was in opposition and they were saying, but that money should go to the consolidated fund, the UPP said, no, we don't need to put it in the consolidated fund. And now that they are in opposition, can they stand on their record that they did need to put that money into the consolidated fund where it will have better auditing? not the politicians telling you how much money they made and what they spend the money on, because they themselves in opposition now have been asking for accounting of the money spent in CIP. And you get it in hucks and herrings and bits and pieces and so on. I remember I saw some sort of um, statement on what the money was spent for some year, and I saw something that rage on the police officer who is up passports, selling a passport. He got some money for something, and I saw Sagaifu, the Rastafarian camp down at Creekside. They got money to build a school down there. Why are they getting that privilege of a school being built through CIP? I have no idea. These things are not brought to us and told us, okay, we see that the funds are spent, but why are the funds spent? Tell me why and who decided that that money that we made, which is our money, you're telling this is our money, but you're spending it what you think it should be spent on. Are we supposed to be accepting of that? And that is the problem with the UPB. How do they justify it now? How are they going to say now, we did the same thing, but we're asking you to account when we were in the position also? We had problems with them and their accounting practices. Yes, it is a matter that the money from the CIP program, the large amounts, they're bragging is over a billion now, whatever amount, and they were claiming it was a billion o- over 3, 4 years ago, previous to COVID. They're saying they had made $1 billion. Then when you start to hammer them about it, after COVID came and ravishes and things aren't being funded and there's a cutbacks here and there. You ask them about the money. They say, oh, it wasn't cash. It was cash in kind. It was in assets and this. What assets? What are you telling me about? Because all we're really seeing is this money being spent. We want to be accounted on what assets were gained by the state of Antigua and Barbuda to the amount of billions of dollars. There are more questions than answers the way I see it. And because of this, who is going to actually keep these people accountable? It's very hard to say when you're in office that you did the same thing or you initiated the program and you said that it was going to go into the National Development Fund. You started it. And you must have realized that people who are opposed to your government will always be asking where the money gone. So that is a contention that you're going to have to deal with. You chose to go on that line, and now you were saying in opposition where the money gone. Me who was in opposition then and who is in opposition now, I probably will always in opposition, saying where the money gone. I don't understand how politicians are able to fool the citizens and tell them this is such a good program and I will be spending the money according to what I think is best for you. That's not what I would like for Antigua and Barbuda. And I believe in the last 10 years or so since that money has been spent, people can really see that in Antigua I'm speaking about, where the money gone, what is being funded. You had the cancer center that should have been funded as soon as they hear that the Bahamian or the whatever organization was there running it had pulled out or could not keep it up. That is what I want to hear. It's being funded on. I wanted to hear about CIP money being spent to create a stronger food security in Antigua and Barbuda. And that could have been done with the money. That could have CIP money could have been done to keep Dunbar's farm open, or even more so if you felt that the field had lied fallow, then that money should have been spent to increase the yield in food and lower the cost of food in Antigua and Barbuda by funding several of the largest government-owned farms. It was not spent in that. So what do you spend this money on? Only God knows. But let us get back to the CIP. Now, the whole idea, what we started with Lofty last week, was that 4 of the 5 OECS countries that have CIP programs, CBI programs, St. Kitts, and Nevis, Antigua and Barbuda, Dominica and St. Lucia. decided that they're going to form something like a conglomerate or like something like OPEC, that they're going to fix the rate amongst the four island nations, the rate for the CIP program for to purchase an Antigua and Barbuda or whatever national of these four countries passport. It went down that basically they set the rate at $200,000 when it had slid all the way down to 100,000. So they basically said, okay, then let us fix the rate for a pass. We're giving it away at rock bottom prices. So we will see in the coming months and year how this CIP program functions with these group of players now, excluding St. Lucia, who said no, they're not going to join on with Antigua and Barbuda. I wonder what the workings were really like when they asked them to join, and why would St. Lucia say no? But it will be very interesting to be a fly on the wall to figure out what the hell is going on there. You know, you see a lot of the things that are happening in Antigua and Barbuda, and I just like you all to listen to what I'm saying at this point in time. When I came home to Antigua to live, 2002, August, the first job that I received, I worked for Inland Revenue as a lawyer for Inland Revenue in Antigua and Barbuda, right? And what they said at that point in time, Mr. Scouten, William Scouten was the commissioner of Inland Revenue. As a lawyer for Inland Revenue, I discovered from Mr. Scouten and several other people that from the hotels and the restaurants in Antigua and Barbuda, they had owed in total 90 million EC dollars to the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And this was around 2002, so early 21st century, right? We're going into the quarter of the first quarter of the century, which we know. They owed $90 million to Inland Revenue. Now, what happened? The UPP won the election 2004, and what we heard from the UPP government that there was enough taxes on the books and that it just needed to be properly administered to have people to account and to set up payment plans, I suppose. And they said they know how they were going to do it. They got into office March of 2004. And by the following year, I think it was the 1st of April 2015, they introduced the income tax. I think before or after, I can't remember now, they introduced the ABS, the Antigua and Barbuda sales tax, 15% of whatever you purchase. 15% of that, they're going to be taxed 15%, and that will go to the government. I worked for Inland Revenue as their lawyer, let us say January of 2013. And by the June 2003, I mean, sorry, these years are confusing. I worked for Inland Revenue around January of 2003 till around June of 2004. I was terminated by the UPP. And when I went to work for them and they told me the large amounts of money, and I was the sole lawyer for Inland Revenue at that point in time. You know, you're a young lawyer coming home and you think you can take on the world. But even me, at that point in time, realizing the large stack of files that they were giving me for all the debt to collect. I was like, no way, I can handle all of that at one time. Not even 2 times or 3 times. That's going to take years. And even after years, even if no, it's 20 something years since then, I don't think I could have handled all those files. But you need to move immediately in those sort of files because you can't. It's a breach of a contract and a thing. You have to move within a period of time as you'll be statute barred. So I was there as a young lawyer thinking, okay, then the next move for any administration, even if the Labour Party was out of office, they would have gone and hired 4 to 5 other lawyers to assist me to go after $90 million or so that the hotels and the restaurants owed the government. I was terminated by June of 2004. And then by 2005, the United Progressive Party introduced ABSD and reintroduced income tax. Now, what I'm saying about these things is that for some reason, after putting into effect the ABSD, putting into effect the reintroduction of income tax, towards the end of the 10 years of the United Progressive Party from 2004 to 2014, they went along with introducing the CIP program. They needed more money. And why would you need more money? Because they said that the world had taken a downgrade in globally, and financial crisis here and financial crisis there. But isn't that something that you plan for when you're reaping all this money? ABSD and income tax? And put away something for later days? No. Government just spends money. They don't save. Because they don't want to leave no money for the incoming government if they lose office. That is what I have grown to understand about the mentality of running government in Antigua and Barbuda. So what I'm saying, we had ABSD, we had the reintroduction of income tax, and then we had the introduction of the CIP program on the United Progressive Party. And now we have the CIP program augmented into some Frankenstein monster under Gaston Brown and the ALP when they got into office 2014. What about the $90 million that the hotels and the restaurants owed the government of Antigua and Barbuda? I doubt anybody went after that money. And that is a crying shame in Antigua and Barbuda. Because I feel that before you go into a CIP program, before you tax and put on 2% and you put on the 15% on ABSD, either government, when are you all going against big business or sectors of the tourist sector that owe large amounts of money? Because even though they may scare you and tell you, oh, well, if you go after demand taxes from us, that we're going to, the debt collection, that we're going to lay off workers, so be it. So be it. That is what I've never understood with the governments that have, or the administrations that have formed governments in Antigua and Barbuda. They seem to be so scared in collecting what is rightfully theirs. And even if you're saying that you sue these debt, the people who owe you the debt, you're supposed to come up with some sort of installment plan. But they are rushing against a limitation period of when they started to breach their agreement, stop paying their taxes, and then you can't recover it. So you have to write it off as debt. I'm sure a lot of that money that was owed has been written off in debt. And at the end of the day, they have to find money somewhere. So they go into raising ABST by 2% and come with all these different ways to get money out of you. Look at the hotels and you realize how many of them owe taxes, but they're too big to touch. The government is too afraid to see people being put out of work. But if you collected that money, wouldn't you be able to find work for your citizens? And this is what I'm saying about the whole CIP program. CIP program technically should not be a necessity for Antigua and Barbuda, the sort of money that was owed to the government of Antigua and Barbuda. And I would like to hear from a minister of government or minister of finance how much debt was written off from these hotels. And when we see what they're written off, you tell me if you feel comfortable with selling your passports. You feel confident paying more taxes, 2% here. And God knows what other taxes and fuel rates rising. Tell me if you feel comfortable in paying taxes when large business owes so much debt to the government. It is something that mystifies me. I only worked at Inland Revenue for 1 year, little over a year. Let me see. 2000, yeah, just over a year and a half. Cut my throat. Nobody, I believe, went after that debt. So that's what I just wanted to let you all be aware of my position with the CIP program. Before you go there, tell me, what debt did you collect from big business? And don't just kick that can alarm, because we all know by now that there's a limitation period. You can't say that debt was owed to the government in 2002 and you're going to start to collect it now. That's not the way the law works. There has to be a limitation period. You can't go say 150 years. You can go and sue somebody that owed you 100 years ago. There's a limitation period. I believe in this circumstance, it's 6 years to the date of the breach. And since that money hasn't been paid, the government of Antigua and Barbuda is screwed. Or you did not go and get lawyers to go after these people, file lawsuits and win your lawsuit to collect that money. And then you go into judgment and judgment summons. And even if they can't pay all that money at time, you work it out with the Inland Revenue. Speak to Mr. Madu, speak to the commissioner. Tell us how much you were able to work, and you work on something. But I find it so offensive that the government has written off so much debt and put that burden on the citizens of Antigua and Barbuda. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end it there right now. As I said, I did not plan to really come alone. It was supposed to be Loftus filling us in on what he had to say from last week when we got interrupted with technical difficulties. But as I said, I felt like I had to come on and move on with the whole issue of the CIP program and how it is set up. So many countries have oil and diamonds, and they base their society on one industry. And if they keep pushing that industry or easy money as a CIP program, we are losing our creative edge to create work for our people, from new innovations and finding ways of employing people. The CIP is a crutch, and that crutch, we need to put an end to it. We need to get rid of that program once and one for all. And that is the way I see the way it's going. I am never for CIP, and I'll never be for it. Only in a case where there was a national disaster or emergency. You see, like after Irma or something like that, and you know that Barbuda needed to be developed. That is where, or to be rebuilt. That is where CIP considered that. But CIP was in effect all then, and then the prime minister said he didn't have the money. I didn't have. How I expect us to get the money to go rebuild Barbuda from CIP, you idiot. That's where you get the money from. Ladies and gentlemen, until I come again, you take good care. All the very best. I will do this again at some point real soon. Bye for now.